Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Chalsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Ooh, we got our favorite little GIF up there, Tony. Welcome, everyone, to episode 36 of season 4 of the At the Show podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Tony the Sugar Baggy Bird. How you doing, my guy?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Everyone out there, we're in November. Let's give thanks for you guys being here and listening to us talking great movies.
Yes, sir. We are going to talk some good movies today. We're going to do our Halloween leftovers today for, since Halloween, it was yesterday. It is November 1st, so it's still Halloween in my book this week.
It's a day later, and even today at work, I still continued Halloween festivities because to me, even this weekend, tomorrow, going to another pumpkin patch. There's still a couple still open, and I take every last minute to take it all in.
I haven't gone to a pumpkin patch this year, but went to a couple parties. Also a trunk or treat. I know you've done the trunk or treat as well. Yes,
those are always awesome. Even yesterday, just doing regular trick or treating, the wind was real heavy, but got some really good stuff. Not me personally.
There was a guy dressed up as Guy Fieri at my job yesterday, as well as the person from the Australian breakdancing team. Go ahead.
Sophia's teacher dressed up in probably one of the greatest costumes I've seen in a long time. She dressed up as Maleficent. She had the green paint on and the headdress and everything. And for a preschool teacher, I was like, wow, that's impressive.
There's also somebody dressed up as Einstein when I was walking to the train and the wind blew their wig off and they were chasing it down the street, which is pretty funny.
It'd be cooler. I mean, not Einstein is very cool, but it'd be cool if it was a young Einstein from the 1980s. That movie, if you don't remember, with Yahoo Serious, I think was it.
the man who sued Yahoo, or his name.
Yes.
All right, let's get into our first segment. Tone, let's go into what we've been watching, my guy.
All right, let's do it.
That's a me, and also. What were you just watching?
So what were you watching this week, my guy?
Okay, first off, these are probably my two favorite things to watch during Halloween time. First up is It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, which if you're talking cartoons, I probably watched this one the most. I probably watched this one 17,342 times. No, I don't know. I don't know if I counted that much, but I love this cartoon because for me it really embodies everything that is awesome about Halloween. It's awesome about just some great humor, some great lines. One of the greatest lines in this cartoon is the three things you never talk about are politics, religion, and the Great Pumpkin. Great line right there, as is this one.
Gee, I got a candy bar. Boy, I got 3 cookies. Hey, I got a package of gum. I got a rock.
Now, you know me, I love music. For me personally, I just got done doing the 31 days countdown with different songs. But to me, the ultimate Halloween music for me is Vincent Giraldi's soundtrack for The Great Pumpkin. You can play this, and honestly, the sounds... this is what I grew up on. This was played, honestly, like more than anything that should have been played at my age. I just love this so much. Charlie Brown, the basic story is really quickly. Charlie Brown is, he is is trick or treating. A great pumpkin is involved, meaning that how do I explain it? The great pumpkin is a myth, and Linus sits in the pumpkin patch all night waiting for this myth to show up. There's a great Halloween party where Charlie Brown is involved. It's a great time. I just love this movie, and Snoopy is the ultimate OG with the his little Woodstock. How could I forget him? Because he's named after the great festival or town. So very cool little cartoon. What do you think of the Great Pumpkin?
I love all peanut stuff. I do get kind of pissed that they treat Charlie Brown like trash. Lucy used to irritate me when she pulled the damn, football from him. I love the Family Guy thing. It's one of the few Guy things I find funny is when he does the Roadhouse skit and he just starts kicking the shit out of her. And so you will hold that football for Charlie Brown. But the Great Pumpkin's a good one. We were just talking about that actually the other day because Sally, Charlie Brown's sister, goes out with Linus to the pumpkin patch, and then Linus redeems himself with the Easter Beagle for Easter when the Easter Beagle actually shows up as Snoopy's Easter Beagle. But I remember she was complaining that she used to wait all night in that pumpkin patch for the Great Pumpkin, and finally he got redeemed when the Easter Beagle showed up. But the Great Pumpkin is a great cartoon. Still holds up to this day. Peanuts are always great to watch.
That's I think that's just generally the cart. That's because a student asked me that question. Is I think that's the whole Peanuts thing, is that everyone else is superior to Charlie Brown, and Charlie Brown is sadly treated like a heel, where really he's like the nicest one out of all of them, and he should be treated with the most respect. And that's what makes it for a ridiculous cartoon. The next thing I watched, Jump, you know how much we talked about a little bit last week, Tales from the Crypt. We can go on forever, which I'm sure we will one day. So many great episodes. For me, what I just loved growing up were just the amazing cameos that were involved in the show.
Will do to stay young.
What's the matter with you? Want to keep that 90-pound corpse for the rest of your death? Keep pumping. I tell the story.
Now, just that episode right there, which was directed by Schwarzenegger, had just a pair of really, really awesome actors in it. It had Mr. Rick Rossovich, which was in the first Terminator, and he switches bodies with the cool old man from Christmas Story. His name is belittling me off the top of my head, but he's the one with the voice who's like, oh, he's in a couple other things too. He's in Tales from the Dark Side. He's in a couple things, but they switch bodies through the whole entire episode. It's like a transformation. Real cool episode. A lot of cool episodes.
Uncle Felix.
Yes, there you go. Uncle Felix. Yes. What was just a couple of your favorite episodes of Tales from the Crypt? Yep.
That one's one of my favorites. The dummy one with Don Rickles is one of my favorites. Also the off the top of my head, the one where the guy kills all the women who, like older women, he marries them and kills them off.
Yes,
and
Williams, that's a good
yeah,
one.
and then they end up coming back and as the
Getting
him.
Yeah,
That's a great one. And another one is the little boy who's actually a werewolf, but he gets taken in by the vampires.
Yes, that's a good one. That's like that. You're just naming classics here. I mean, when you think back to a lot of the people who are in the show, there's a really great episode with the little old lady from Poltergeist, where she has this house and she has this little girl named Felicity. And what ends up happening is the radio host goes to the thing because she calls in and says, "Come to my house. You got to help me with my little girl." And he ends up going into pretty much a house of horrors. What I loved about the show mostly was that it was like 30 minutes, a huge twist, a pretty comparable story, and big name directors from Robert Zemeckis, all the way down to Tom Hanks directed an episode, just lots and lots of star power. It's a shame that for a while they tried to put it back together. I know M. Night Shyamalan tried on TNT, but the tough part about all this is there's just so much copyrights to all this from a long time ago. I guess it's kind of like from what I was doing research, it's like the old Beavis and Buttheads with all the music videos. Back then, they were able to play those music videos with the Beavis and Butthead because it was MTV. But then when they started doing the DVDs, you couldn't put the music videos on there because you had to go get the licensing and all of that. So, but I just love that concept, and I really wish something as big as that was back in the time on something like HBO Max, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, it really would be cool. I wouldn't mind a newer film coming out like around kind of like a feature film, but I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it's best sometimes just leaving the classic it is, because we're just getting sometimes a little too much remakes, and maybe we wouldn't like it. Like just this week, they just announced a couple days ago, a Cliffhanger remake is coming. Um, and Sly will not be involved with it. I know you're very sad being a
He's like
Tuska.
80.
I know. But he could play the Lithgow part, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. He's like 80.
Well, again, he's going to probably be in another Rocky or Rambo before it's said and done. So, that being said, what have you? Oh, speak of the devil. You know what's ironic is, again, I didn't even realize one of your picks was. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, so this week I actually watched the Sly film. So I did the 31 days of horror. So I watched horror movies the whole month. Even when I was editing, even when I was doing other stuff, I watched them. I had them on when I was working just to kind of get ideas of how I want my. Whenever I do a video, I have it like picture it in my mind, and I figure out what little bits I want to put in. I like to watch the movie and then go over, what parts I want to put in the video, and then what little humorous, stupid, dumb things I think are funny I put in there with my script. So I watched a ton of horror movies this year. So I kind of wanted to cleanse the palate a little bit and watch a little bit something different. So I went back to an old favorite of mine, the classic that should have been nominated for many Oscars, the Taco Bell award-winning movie of Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, which is hilariously bad, but so bad it's good.
Well, I'll be really honest with you. Again, I hate to. It's almost like sometimes like you grew up in the same house as me, because this was another one, man. I mean, I keep thinking of what was the movie that my dad played the most, and man, he loved Demolition Man, and like to the point where he would have honestly said a kid he everything from the shells all the way down to the Taco Bell to honestly, Wesley Snipes does a great job in this movie. Really, really good job. And me being exactly the age I was when this came out, this was my wheelhouse. I mean, it was like, and now of course you look back at it and there's some cheesiness to it. And there is, I like Sandra Bullock, but there's just some things that maybe I could have switched around, but a great fun movie. I mean, a great fun movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's some cheesiness to it, but it's got a lot of nostalgia to it.
Mhm.
You have, of course, Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, their first big matchup, which is kind of funny because Stallone really wanted Jackie Chan to be the villain. And in Asian cinema, if you're a hero most of the time and you become a villain, they recognize you as a villain from then on. So he didn't want to switch over to be a villain, which is why probably Jackie Chan's never really played a villain in any of his movies. But it has like even Jesse Ventura's in this film. He plays a little small part as one of the guys they bring back. You have the guy from Beetlejuice. Otho is in here.
Otho.
Yeah.
Forgot about Otho.
Dennis Leary's in here with his wants to rub jello all over his body and run around naked as he talks about. They eat a rat burger. So got a lot of classic stuff in it.
At this time, I mean, me not knowing really anything about food, I mean, Taco Bell was one of my favorite things. So, like, seeing Taco Bell in this movie, like, wow, it's going to be a restaurant one day. That was kind of cool. And um, a lot of memorable quotes. I mean, the movie's loaded with classic memorable quotes.
Be well, yeah. And the second movie I watched this week, I trashed The Crow. Yeah, nothing beats a good rat burger, Jack. I trashed The Crow remake. I didn't really like it. And I did say that Wicked Prayer was better. I went and watched Wicked Prayer, and I barely got through that. But I will say, I still prefer it over The Crow remake. So, And crazy thing was, the thing that kind of caught my interest for this film, The Crow Wicked Prayer, was that apparently DMX had talked about reviving the series or the franchise, and he wanted to have himself be a record executive who got killed by another Mongol who was going to be played by Eminem, and he was going to come back and try to kill him. That would have been a pretty awesome Crow, as DMX would have been the Crow coming back. But it was about to. I think it was going to
give it to you.
Yeah, he was going to be called the Crow Lazarus.
Ooh, interesting.
So he was killed. Maybe he was trying to do the early play off the the deaths of Tupac and Biggie, maybe something like that. But Eminem was supposed to be the bad guy, and everybody kind of pretty much hated Eminem at this time in 2000 because of the stuff he was talking about. But that'd been kind of cool. But yeah, I definitely prefer the Crow Wicked Prayer over the Crow remake. Johnny Cuervo over Bill Skarsgård. But to each their own, I guess.
I always remember a buddy of mine was like, "You should come over to my friend's house. We're gonna watch this movie." So I was like, "Sure, where's he live?" And he let me know, and I went over there, and I walked in, and the movie had already started. This was the movie, and I never really wished. Like, usually I'm one of them in my mind, at least. People, I'm telling jokes, watching movies. I sat there, and these guys had the commentary of this movie of the gold that I wish I could play for you tonight. I've never laughed so hard and watched such a pathetic movie all in one. But I'm with you. I could see that I would still enjoy this one more than the new one, because what they did to it, what they did to my boy, what they just what they did. And honestly, with this one, even with the box, see, I love Edward Furlong in movies like Brain Scan. So or Tara Reid in American Pie. So I could be like, okay, this is cheesy enough where I can enjoy it for them. That other movie, I like Bill Skarsgård in it. There's nothing he's cheesy in. So watching him in The Crow doesn't give me that same cheesy feeling. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, in this one, you got Tito Ortiz, you got Tara Reid, like you said, David Barandas from Angels in there, Danny Trejo is in this one, Dennis Hopper is also in this one. You got some people that even though the movie's not that great, don't get me wrong. The other one just felt like they rehashed an idea just for cash grab, and I'm glad it failed. So I don't want to harp on this because I would just go on a tangent. But that's what we watched this week. Let us know what you watched over at the At the Show podcast, over on Twitter or X or whatever Elon decides to name it after the election. You can check us out up at Facebook and let us know there as well. Or just let us know at our own handles at Lil Yumper or the Sugar Baggy. Tony, I love your little thing about him. Hey, lady, thanks for the ride.
I know, don't you? I said to switch it up tonight.
But with that tone, let's talk about a little thing we have going on over at the Sadistic Penguin Studios. As everyone knows, we have one of our buddies, Gordo, who's a big supporter of the show and also of everything we do with the Sadistic Penguins, as well as the Chicago Sports Bums and the 108. Gordo has to have a surgery soon, and he's going to need some help with his medical bills. So all of us has banded together. From the 108 and the Chicago Sports Bums have a GoFundMe out there for him, where you could just go to his Venmo and send him money for his medical bills. We also thought about doing something for Gordo and having a shirt made up with him with the hashtag Gummy Strong, with our own little twisted spin on Gordo's penguin, with the penguin with the long beard and the Willy Wonka suit. We want to have that out for Gordo. So all proceeds that are bought from this shirt will go to Gordo. We already gave him our first payment. We had some people buy some shirts recently. So everything that we make from this, we make no profit of it. So you buy a shirt. All the proceeds go to Gordo for his medical bills. We're going to keep this up there until Gordo's surgery, which will be happening later this month. If you can, please grab a shirt and help out our guy. He's a good dude. Probably one of the nicest guys I know. And he also hooks people up with gummies.
Yeah.
Gummy Strong, Gordo.
Yeah, very Gummy Strong. Very awesome. We want you to get better, and it's awesome that we've already made some cash and are sending it his way.
Yes. So I dropped the link inside the chat. Tone will add the link in the video description as well as the podcast description. So if you got some extra cash that you want to help out, it's $30 a shirt. The shirts are nice quality. Roxy posted an awesome picture on Twitter of it. I have to order mine this week.
Me
I
too.
haven't got, they're really nice. I really like the design, and we sent Gordo actually a custom mug. Shout out to Brian, Magnificent
Very nice.
Stan, who got a mug out to him with a logo and a shirt. So look, help support one of our guys who is always there with us.
Yes, please do that, because anytime you could help out anybody who's in need like this, especially somebody who supports small time awesome podcasts like this one and all the other awesome podcasts he supports, definitely deserves it.
Yeah. So shout out to Gordo. Also, a big shout out to the one and only Baloney. Happy birthday. I think he turned 50 today. Uh, shout out to him for his 50th. I know he had the Bum's happy hour earlier. I caught a little bit of it. I actually took a nap. So usually during that time, I'm having a nap time because I'm an old man. But shout out to Baloney. We love you, buddy, and happy birthday.
Yeah, watch a Marvel movie on us.
But with that, Tone, we're going to get into this list of films that we got going, my man. We said that the films would be about some Halloween leftovers. So we picked some films that are some horror films that basically you might know and you may not know. I picked two films that are foreign. So usually when we do the old format, we have a sound clip played. So for two of my picks, I'm going to have to do a video clip because one is in Korean and the other one is in Spanish. I know we do have Spanish speakers that listen to the show, but I don't know if we have any Korean speakers that listen to the show. But just to be fair, if you want to see the clips, check us out on the YouTube at Sadistic Gaming Studios, on the YouTubes if you want to see the clips. But I will play them. They're about 6 and 8 seconds long for those two clips. And then we have, the usual list of 10. Tone, you ready to get to this?
Let's do it.
Cool. Let's start off with our first film here. 2004's Shutter, the Japanese version is which I picked. And if you saw the clip, it was actually the appearance of the girl going through the car. The film was directed by Banjong. Excuse me my pronunciations here, people. Pissa Takunen and Parpum Wanpum. I don't know if I said that correctly. I'm sorry. Starring Amanda Everingham, Nata Rinrich, Thongmi, and Achita Sikamana. It had a box office of 6.9 million. Now, if you followed me for the 31 Days of Horror this year, I actually did a video on this. The reason that I picked this film is because one, the American version gets talked about a lot with Pacey from Dawson's Creek.
When you first brought it up, that's where I thought we were going. I'm like, wow, yeah, I know that. No. And then we'll get to it. No, keep going.
No, so that one is not as good as the original. Sometimes the American versions are decent, like The Ring was a good, The Grudge was actually a decent remake for the American version audience. But this one, I think it does it better in terms of the horror with the girl, the all-around story of a guy who is basically haunted by a woman that he doesn't know why. Him and his girlfriend, they think they hit her on the street in a car accident. But in reality, there's a big twist at the end of why she's following them. She appears in their pictures, she haunts them, she terrorizes them, and it basically goes through, their trials and tribulations of trying to get rid of her. Has one of the best twist endings, I think, for horror films, in my opinion, that I've seen. And it's nicely shot. It gives you a lot of suspense. It builds on a lot of, you're thinking she's going to come and then she's there. It doesn't have a lot of gore in it, which is kind of cool that you can have horror without gore, even though she looks kind of jacked up. But it's kind of depressing as well. It has a nice little story to it. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend checking out the Shutter Japanese version, the Korean version. This is actually, if you look hard enough, you can find it on YouTube and you can watch it there, or you can stream it to your Prime or I think it's on Netflix as well. But you can stream it there. But it's totally worth the watch. Foreign horror is always good to kind of get a different taste of how the world sees horror than the way that the American versions are, or the American audiences. It's always nice to see a perspective outside of what we're used to. And, it's been influencing us for so long that people don't really realize that. I just did thing on Demons, which people are like, oh, but that was directed by one like the best people from Italy. So it's always cool to check out foreign horror. This is a good one to check out. Tone, I'm guessing you haven't seen this one.
Let me just start with your amazing 31 Days of Horror. Starting with Demons all the way out you pretty much was banger after like Seamus, banger after banger after banger. I mean, you like movies, like, and honestly, I had never seen Demons before, and I had never seen this before, and I have watched both of them since watching your videos. Um, Demons is awesome, and this is really cool too, because I was only familiar with the Joshua Jackson version. And honestly, it's not because yes, we work together and we are friends, and that's why I love your videos. But if I just stumbled across that video and I'd never seen those movies, I would have felt the same exact way, because these are movies that I have not been exposed to. But I remember seeing, like we talked about before, those old VHS boxes, the Demons box. Just never saw the movie, and this one I knew was a remake. But really, really scary. Very, very scary. When it's portrayed, for me, sometimes the original can even be, because you can feel a little bit more. I don't want to say the passion versus the remake, because the remake was taken after this, where this is the original version of the artist. But really cool pick.
Yeah, if the originals always seem to be better. It's very rare that the remakes are better, but they do kind of hold up depending on how they're done. I just prefer this one over the other one. I think the other one was a little too more watered down than this one. But yeah, definitely, if you haven't seen the original, check it out. Let me know what you think. I know what turns people off is subtitles, but sometimes you have the dubs. I rather read the subtitles because I don't when they're dubbed and they're dubbed poorly. I don't like that, so I'd rather read the subtitles of what's going on. And I like to hear the original original voice of the actors. That's just my thing. But the two actors that play in here, Manning Abraham and I can't say it, Thong Mi is his last name. They are awesome. Like you feel their passion, their pain, you fear throughout the whole film. So it's definitely worth a watch.
Real quick, I always remember I was I was a junior, and the senior was talking about going to see this movie downtown called Firework, and it was in subtitles, and I was like, and I'm like, I don't know, man, I don't know, I've never been out of the. But then I asked my good friend, like, you want to come with? And my good friend said yes, so we ended up going, and it honestly was another amazing experience where I said to myself after I watching the movie and watching this awesome movie downtown in subtitles, like, you got to get out and go to these cool theaters in Chicago. I mean, I was only then a junior. I mean, it's not like I was even 18 or anything, but still, it's an experience, and opening yourself up to see these type of movies, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. But that's Shutter. Check it out. Tom, let's get into your next movie, my man.
Let's do it.
I mean, I got something to say, What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Oh, yes.
Hey, what's wrong with you, man? Show some fucking respect for the dead, will ya?
1985's Return of the Living Dead, directed by Dan O'Bannon, who also directed the film The Resurrected, but he wrote some bangers. He wrote Aliens, Dark Star, Heavy Metal, and Total Recall. He wrote the screenplay for that. The film stars Clu Gallagher, James Karen, Don Calfa, Miguel Nunez Jr., John Philbin, and Beverly Randolph. It had a budget of $4 million and a box office of $14 million. Tell me why you picked this one, my man.
Oh, it's got everything. Music, which I love. The soundtrack, the punk rock soundtrack, is amazing. For a zombie movie. What I like is that I like the cheesy aspects of it. I love the brains, just the overall the I don't want to say cosmetic, what are they, the way the art department got together and was able to really put together
creature effects.
The way the creature effects look, especially in like when they're in the graveyard. Then of course you've got just the interaction. Clu Gallagher does a really good job in this movie, and just really brings out a lot of the I think one of my favorite zombie movies personally, because it's got it all. It's not super serious like the original Night of the Living Dead, but then it's not like super, 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 super stupid. Like maybe I can't even think of a super, super stupid one off the top of my head. But this one is one that I enjoy because especially the music mixed with the zombies. Definitely got to see it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is John A. Russo, who worked with George A. Romero on The Night of the Living Dead, the original in '69, he was one of the writers for this film, and the reason they broke up from their partnership was because they both had different ideas on how they wanted to do a sequel. Of course, Romero went with Dawn of the Living Dead, which is an awesome film. I actually like that and the remake, which are I mean, the remake's not as good as the original, but I like both of them. Uh, but this film was Russo's idea, and this is one of the first. Actually, I believe this is the first film where zombies actually talk. If you want to count White Zombie, I think it's more of a hypnotizing with Bela Lugosi back in the day. But this one, the zombies actually talk and tell you what they want. The creature effects are awesome. Yeah, I believe Tom Savini actually worked on these as well. Toby Hooper was actually in talks to direct this film in 3D, which I think in 3D it
Ooh.
would have been kind of crappy, but this film holds up today. I love the punk rock aspect of it. I love all the characters in here. Miguel Nunez, who you might remember for Juana Man, he's also in a bunch of other films. He was homeless during this, and this was like one of his first big breaks. Got him to go out there. I love the fact that they had a nice little backstory of this toxin that basically brought them back to life, and when they burned the bodies, it wouldn't spread to the
Yeah.
graveyards. It's just cool to like the whole creature effects of it. Like they're showing a picture right now of they call him Tarman, which is a collectible figure. He's renowned in the horror circles. It has that everything you want in horror comedy, scary. It has great story, and it's something you can still watch today and it still holds up. It's not what you would put with your kids, but it's an adult comedy that adult comedy horror that you would like. And I thought it was really, really well done. And the crazy thing is, when this film came out, some people are like, "Wait, is this the sequel to Night of the Living Dead?" Because it had Return, and no, it wasn't. But it was a nice ploy to get people to go watch it.
Yeah, I mean, again, as Dawn of the Dead feels like late 70s, this feels like 80s. The soundtrack is kicking. And again, the costumes, not even the zombie costumes, but just the costumes of the North, like the mohawks and cool chains and all of that. I remember specifically, I had never even seen the movie, and I had a lot of moving and some of the first kids that I talked to going into 8th grade, moving from Illinois into Indiana, they listen to punk rock, and the movie they talked about was this movie because to them, it emphasized how awesome punk rock was, and that mixed with, as you stated, the creature effects. Really cool.
Yeah, it's the creature effects are awesome in this film. I also found just when doing research that the filmmakers had to get approval from Lysol to have Frank spray away the stench of death with their product. They like the idea that Lysol will kill any conceivable odor, so they're like, "Okay, that's cool." So they got some advertising there because it smelled
Nice.
so bad when they were spraying. The creature effects are awesome in this film. Watch this film just for that alone. Like,
Yeah.
it's totally worth it. One of the most famous scenes is probably not just Tarman, which is what you have right now, but the scene where they have the zombie strapped to the table and she tells them
Oh, yeah.
why they're living and what they're looking for, and she basically says that they want brains because it cures their pain. It's a really cool scene, when half the body's up. And also, the effects of, like, the half the body guy that's walking around that they hit with a flashlight, little stuff like that. It's a good film to watch, and it still holds up.
Great graveyard dance scene too.
Yes, yes, great dance scene. So check out Return of the Living Dead. That's a good pick, Ton. I was really happy when I saw this one.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, my friend, let's go into our next film, and here's the clip for this one. Ooh, no sound came with it. Redonkulous. But that is a film called The Skin I Live In, which was released in 2011, directed by Pedro Almodovar, who directed Parallel Mothers, The Room Next Door, Pain and Glory, and Volver. The film starred Antonio Banderas, Alina Alena, Jan Cornette, and Marisa Paredes. The film had a box office of 33 million and a budget of 10 million. The reason I picked this film, another one I went through for 31 Days of Horror, but this film is masterfully shot because it is not a horror film that does like a lot of serial killing or a lot of slashers or hauntings. It's basically a film that basically goes into ethics and paying a penance for what you did. It goes into a plastic surgeon who had lost his wife, and something bad happens to his daughter, and he decides to take revenge on all that by recreating his ex-wife, his deceased wife. And I won't get into too much detail on who he does it to, but and why he does it to them. But it's basically if you had a person with no moral ethics for being a doctor and being able to do what they want and having people being able to do what they want, you know, what would you do? What would the world be? I mean, it's been rumors about people doing this now, quack doctors, but this guy was actually working on synthetic skin to help people and burn victims and whatnot. And he used that good for bad, which it can happen in the medical industry. Makes you think. It's really, really, really good in terms of psychological horror. Banderas, who is usually known for having tics and whatnot when acting, was told to drop all that. He was told to be as menacing and as cold as he could be, and he's a complete asshole in this film. He plays like his role masterfully. Again, this film is in Spanish, so if you haven't seen it, I greatly, greatly, encourage you to watch it. It does have dubbing, it does have subtitles again, but it's another film that like Almodovar does a great job of pushing horror on you, and you really, really, feel the victim's pain in this, as well as you kind of feel a little bit sorry for Banderas as well when you learn his backstory. But it's totally worth watching. Have you seen this film, Tom?
I saw it when it first came out. I went out. I think there was a while where I saw every Banderas movie that he was putting out. And this one, I think what drew it to me was actually the box when it first came out. But then when you brought it back to me, and honestly, I saw another great video that you did, because what I like with some of your picks is you didn't go for straight horror. You can go for psychological horror is different in so many different ways. To me, one of the scariest movies for me would be like a movie like Apocalypse Now, just Martin Sheen, what he goes through, but that's not horror, you know what I mean? So like I understand exactly what you're saying. The performance of Antonio Banderas is really, really good in this movie. As they are in a lot of his movies, but as you said, I like menacing Antonio Banderas. I like cold and calculated Antonio Banderas, and he pulls it off very well in this movie.
Yeah, he's done a really, really good job. Also, the character of Elena, well, the actress of Elena Anaya does a great job, as well as Jan Cornette does a great job in here for the person that is the victim. It's a great. I love the prosthetics in here. I love the way they made the person look when you're showing a great scene of how they have the plastic over her face to make it look the transformation going, and you see him cutting, and it's just crazy. Like even when you find out the story, you're just like, damn, that's really, really fucked up. And in the end, it's kind of like Stockholm syndrome. What happens?
Yeah.
And they finally get turned, but I don't want to give too much away. But it's just out there. You have to watch this film. I can this film I think has really is climbing up my list of like favorite horror films because it's something different, and I always look for something different. And when I first saw this film was maybe about 6 years ago. I've heard of it, but I never watched it. And when I finally watched it, I was like, damn, I gotta watch that again. So I try to sneak this one in every year just to get a feel for it. And that's why I included this year on 31 Days of Horror.
One thing that I always like Katie will look over at me. I think she thinks I'm on social media. Like what I actually do is like I spent so much time just reading about the director of this movie, and his other movies, and just kind of like his beginning. I love doing that. I love finding somebody who I don't know anything about, especially in the realm of movies or music, and just finding a story from the beginning and seeing like all the different things. And that's the same thing. I mean, I've done that with Antonio Banderas, and this is a great example of another good director that doesn't get talked about a lot.
Yeah, so if we can on the show, if we can kind of sway you to a new director, new type of if it's horror or a movie or a style of movie that you never seen, that's we've done our job. It's also your opinion. Like if you want to see it and you tell me it sucks, then it sucks. I mean, it's to each their own, but it's worth trying out. So kind of branch out if you're like a film lover into those foreign films because some of them are worth watching.
It's true.
All right, my man. So let's go into your next film.
Kick him in the north! Kick him in the north! He doesn't have north! Do it! Do it! Wolfman's got nards! Come on! Come on!
1987's Monster Squad, directed by Fred Decker, who directed Night of the Creeps, RoboCop 3, and he also wrote films such as The Predator, Godzilla 1985, a Keelan classic House, If Looks Could Kill, and Ricochet. The film stars Andre Gower, Robbie Kiger, Stephen Mock, Duncan Rager, Tom Noonan, Stan Shaw, Ryan Lambert, Ashley Bank, and Brett Chalem. The movie had a box office of $12 million on a budget. No, actually, it had a budget of $12 million and a box office of $3 million, with $612K for a home market release. That's crazy that this film didn't make money. I thought it did. Tell me why you picked this one.
Nostalgia purposes, multiple reasons. I had a tape. It had this and the Lost Boys on it, and I would just watch them back to back to back to back to back. What I liked about it is because it had everybody. It had the Mummy, it had Dracula, it had the Wolfman, Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite playing the werewolf. Really cool. I if you ever were like if someone was like, man, you guys don't do deep cuts, I would love to just do a show on Tom Noonan. I'm a huge Tom Noonan stan, from everything from Manhunter to Easy Money with Rodney Dangerfield, all the way back to his great performance as Frankenstein. Honestly, I think I cried a lot as a kid watching this movie, just because they were going to hurt Frankenstein at the end. But then at the end, he saved them. It's just a real cool. There's everything for somebody who's like a 12 or 13-year-old looking for, and you want to be part of the Monster Squad. You want to be the cool guy with the leather jacket who the girl looks at and is like, yeah, him. I mean, that's who I wanted to be when I watched this movie. I like it for those reasons. It's like Stand By Me, but like with Wolfmen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, it has the Universal. It's based off the Universal characters, the Universal movie monsters. But due to licensing issues, they couldn't get the exact, appearances of them. So, if you look at it like the creature from Black Lagoon, we know him as a creature from Black Lagoon, but in this movie, he's known as Gillman because they couldn't get the exact licenses, which kind of sucked. But they did a great job of kind of pulling in, who they're talking about in here. Dracula always cracked me up when he tells that little girl, "You little bitch."
Yeah, oh, yeah.
At least she just screams. It's a great kids movie, but it's also got some scary parts in it. Yeah, I remember watching this when I was younger, and I was like, "Oh man, it's crazy that they're trying to hurt Frankenstein." But it also cracked me up that Wolfman's got nards when they kick him in the nuts. It's got a nice transformation scene of the Wolfman. It's got the creature of Black Lagoon coming out. Dracula's badass, and it has Stephen Mock, who, if first time I saw him was in Graveyard Shift, and then he was in this film, and then he later on, for those who are Suits fans, he plays one of the Professor Gerard in the Suits, as actually the father of Gabriel Mock, who plays Harvey Specter. So it's kind of cool seeing them act in the Suits together. But yeah, it's crazy that he was in the Monster Squad. When I was looking at his filmography a while ago, I'm like, oh shit, he was in the Monster Squad. But Tom Noonan is awesome in this film. It's got some great little tidbits in it, and I highly recommend you watch this one as well.
Again, like it reminds me a lot of these movies, especially from the 80s. They just seem like I could sit in a movie theater and watch this and a Return of the Living Dead back to back and have just such a great time. And one is obviously a lot more rated R than this one, but there's just so put together so well. Um, Again, gives off vibes of pre Stranger Things, before Stranger Things, kids getting together to fight forces. In this case, it's, you know, uh, Transylvania's, own Dracula, the way the circle opens at the end, the graphics, they're okay, but again, that's not it's the story, and I think it holds up. I could see why it didn't probably do well back then. From my gathering, the marketing just didn't wasn't there, I don't think. A lot of movies from gathering, talking to people around at that time, some of these movies weren't like you see today with a lot of trailers. It was like maybe a couple, and that's kind of maybe what got lost in the fold. I don't know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I could see this becoming like a series or a franchise if it really popped off. But, it just didn't work out. Maybe they were kinda over the monster movie stuff kinda in '89. I mean, again, Lost Boys came out in '87. Maybe they were still kinda they had the hangover of that, the kids' horror films. I don't
And
know.
it could be what is this movie's audience? You know? Is it adults? Is it young kids? Because there are parts that are a little scary for, like, a 11-year-old or a 10-year-old for parents in the movie theater. So it's like, what are we going for here? And 18-year-olds aren't gonna go wanna see the monster, you just don't know.
That is totally true, totally true. Uh, 2 little tidbits before we go. 2 people had roles in this film that were cut out. One was paid, and that was Liam Neeson. He had a bit part that was cut. So Liam Neeson, if you know him from Taken, he's also Ra's al Ghul in Batman, the first Batman, the first Nolan Batman. And then Dustin Diamond Screech had a small role as a kid who tries to trade baseball cards with the boys, but that was later cut as well. So two iconic people in their own right were in this film, and their thing was cut. But if you haven't seen the Monster Squad, check it out. It still holds up today. It's a cool little film. This is a film you could watch with your kids, maybe a little older. It does have some scary parts, but it's mostly like a family movie, and I recommend this one as well. But Tone, let's get into our next one, my man.
Let's do it.
This thing, it's gonna follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you. Back in the car. It could look like someone you know, or it could be a stranger in a crowd.
2014's It Follows, directed by David Robert Mitchell, who also did The Myth of the American Sleepover and Under the Silver Lake. This film stars Micah Monroe, Keir Gilchrist, Olivia Lucardi, Lily Spiepe, and Bailey Spry. The film had a budget of around $1 million and a box office of 21 million. This is another one of my picks. I did this for 31 Days of Horror. It seems like I'm just picking movies from that, but this is a film that, again, I wanted to when I was doing this list for leftovers, I wanted to do stuff that is not really talked about a lot. This film is another film that is not really talked about a lot, and it has a cool concept. We talked about Smile 2 last week with Keelan, and we kind of went over the original Smile. That kind of concept of having an entity follow you. This kind of has that kind of concept with it, but this one's actually passed sexually and the entity doesn't just run up on you, it follows you slowly, which makes it even creepier. I love the way that David Robert Mitchell shot this because there's certain scenes where they're just panning the camera and you see people walking very slow and you're like, well, is that it? Is that the entity or not? And then you have those scenes like the beach scene where the kid breaks through the hole in the door and scares the shit out of him. Or, the old lady, or even the beginning is awesome where she's running from it and you don't see it right away. Just stuff like that. And then they find her on the beach all messed up. It's awesome that the way it builds tension, and also the score by disaster piece for this film is fucking phenomenal. I would play it, but but we'll get copyright for it. But watch if you like music, like score music, the score for this is really, really good. Tone, have you seen this film?
Yes, me and Katie went to the movie theaters and saw this one, and as you stated, it's an original piece of horror work here. Definitely like what they were doing with this one. A lot of good performances inside the movie too itself. The camera work is, I think, one of the greatest stars in the movie. The cinematography too, I guess you would call it, the way that they are using the camera. Highly innovative.
Yeah, extremely. And like I said, even when it pans or the blur of the camera, you see like something walking slowly. That's one of my favorite parts too. And that you just showed right now, Tone, is the tall guy, it. The very tall it they call him. And that person is named Mike Lehner, and he actually is 7'7",
Wow.
and he's one half of the world's tallest twins from Detroit. His twin
Wow.
brother is 7'7". Yeah, so that's ridiculous. And you can't see what's going on, which is kind of like a precursor to Smile, but it's just a totally different kind of concept of this is passed on. It's actually there's no way to get rid of it. While Smile, you have to witness something. But I like both types of films. I think this one was done really well. I'm also a big fan of Micah Monroe, who was in Long Legs. I know some people don't like Long Legs. I actually liked it, and I liked the way her two characters in both films. This one, she's a little more outspoken. But in this film, like you said, the cinematography, you kind of looks like you're going through a dream. The way they go through the city of Detroit, and then they go like they find, when they see the entity and whatnot, you see it's like you're going through like a dream world, and that's what's kind of cool about it. Just for cinematography, and I think the score alone, it's awesome.
You might be like, "Why are you laughing?" And I thought about one of your videos that you did, and it was like, yes, it was people under the stairs, and you're like, got serious mommy and daddy issues.
Yeah, mommy.
Mommy, daddy, Long Legs. I love Long Legs.
Yeah, I threw that, I
Oh my
threw
God,
that, I threw that in there for Keelan.
that was
If you
good.
haven't seen that one, I texted her too when I released it. I'm like,
That
there's a
was,
little Easter egg in
that
there
was
for you,
good.
and she like
That
laughed.
that was really good.
Yeah, I throw in Easter eggs for like people that we talk to. So
Yeah.
sometimes a joke might like be like the even that one, the P the Fool,
Oh yeah,
the Mr. T. I threw that in there for Brian because I know he would laugh at that one.
good
Uh,
stuff. Good stuff.
But yeah, but back to this film. If you haven't seen this one, definitely check it out. It's kind of crazy that a lot, David Robert Mitchell hasn't really done anything since, Under the Silver Lake. He's working on stuff, but these concepts of horror are really good. New concepts, new ideas. I think this is kind of like changing. Even Jordan Peele, I might not like all his movies, but just something different is something good.
That's right.
And that's where you'll get, the change and where horror is heading in that direction. You need new direction, new stories, new ideas. And that's all film. Like we're kind of getting that abundance of remakes, but get that new blood in there to check it out and to have people experience. So this is a good film to watch. It's creepy, atmospheric, and so like again, I can't stress how great the cinematography is for this one.
And I don't, know if he was right or wrong, but to go what you were saying of new and fresh, even today, Quentin Tarantino said, "I'm not going to watch that new Dune. I've already seen it. Too many remakes. I want to see something new." So this movie is new, and it's definitely like nothing you're ever going to see in the horror genre.
Yeah, he says that, but he makes the remake of The Hateful Eight. So I mean,
That's true. That's
I
true.
mean, not to go on a rant into Tarantino, let me first say that I think Tarantino is the king of dialogue. But I also think that he's very, very high ego and full of himself in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but some people, and like some people, I'm not saying they have a right. Like when you put out quality work, you get to speak a certain quality tongue. Um, I'm not gonna. You said earlier, which we could have talked about. You said the Family Guy's only got about 2 good jokes. That's a
Mhm.
highly false. For my personification, each episode might only have 2, but the whole series has got a lot of funny stuff. Now, the guy who makes it, is he sometimes an A jag? Yeah, but that's like they really go after like some people, and they actually speak some truths. Like John Travolta the other day, they made a crack. I had it on TV about it was pretty honest. It wasn't the nicest, but but I get it. That sometimes
I think
Tarantino comes across as a jag.
in terms of no, I don't think Seth MacFarlane's a jag. I just think, you know what? I think it kind of pulls from The Simpsons a lot, in my opinion. Like The Simpsons was one of the first film series I watched.
I've heard that. I guess I agree with you coming from that regard.
That's
See,
why
I wanted you. Now, I just didn't want you to come from the regards that some people do, and they're like, it's just what's the word I'm looking? It's not politically correct, so it sucks. Like, there's a lot of funny stuff in there, but it is true. It has pulled a lot from The Simpsons. See, I wasn't a huge South Park fan. So to me, my humor leans a little more towards Simpsons and Family Guy. The Family Guy thing I think I like the most is the way the episode's going and his thoughts go to these different offshoots, which is like The Simpsons. Back to Tarantino, his greatest work to me isn't like his last couple movies. They are pretty good. But he does also sit in a high horse and says he's going to make this new movie that sounded incredible called The Critic and then cancel it because he didn't like something. So he is also very weird and sporadic too.
Well, not just that. I think the thing that one thing that kind of soured me on Tarantino was when he did the film of Hollywood, and the Bruce Lee thing. That kind of soured me a little bit because he was saying that Bruce Lee was a certain way, and then Bruce Lee's daughter came out and said he wasn't, and he was arguing with the daughter of the person he's portraying. When some of the stuff he was saying was not true, stars like Jackie Chan had come out and said that it wasn't true, but he was still saying this, which kind of was like, dude, how are you gonna argue with that? But that's just me. And then when him and Scorsese were saying Marvel movies weren't cinema, and I think that's bullshit because just because you might not like it, like I don't like certain movies, but they're on big screen and they make money, and they are cinema in a certain degree.
That's a different argument. Making money and being cinema are two different arguments. Making money and saving cinema, which is exactly what they've done, is exactly what it is. But I think what they were saying is when you think of movies like Jaws and you think of movies like The Godfather and Terminator 2, do those other movies hold with those in cinema? Do they? I don't know.
I would say not to the degree, maybe, but you can't tell me that the character of Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., did not affect a lot of people, especially in his death in Endgame. To me, cinema brings out a emotional response from the person watching it.
Do you think cinema's like music in a way?
Yeah.
Like in a way, like I could be arguing with people going to Lollapalooza, what is this? But the reality is that's what music is right now. That's like cinema. Cinema for a while, I don't even know if you currently say it still is in the superhero realm because nothing really has been put out recently that's dominated in the superhero world. But there was a time period where, this is what people enjoy to see. And Tarantino and Martin Scorsese are only speaking because honestly, their movies aren't as successful as they wish that they would be.
Well, I see too. Like that's totally a valid point. I don't know. Kevin Feige, who did the Marvel movies, like he had a game plan for how they were all going to intertwine, and I thought that was whether I liked them. I mean, I hated the first Captain America. I still don't think it's a good film, but it's in cinema, and to me, yeah. I mean, I still agree with that. We can go talk about this for like hours. That's just one of my. And I like Tarantino. I like his work. I love Scorsese. I'm just saying that I don't agree with some of their points.
One last thing I'll always remember in high school, my really good friend he really liked Lord of the Rings, the book. And I said, nobody's going to see that crap. And he goes, I bet you over 60 million opening weekend. And I go, 30 million, it won't top it. And I'll buy your next movie ticket. And I laughed in his face. And you know what? At that moment, when it all came home to roost to me and he slapped in my face for the next years, I realized that I don't know everything, and neither does Scorsese or, Tarantino. And the reality is cinema goers speak to what they want to go see. There's other problems in cinema, but what they said that was stupid what they said. I agree.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, you have such big voices should speak out some of the other stuff.
I agree. That's
but true. I digress. I mean,
you're good. All right.
But yeah, check out It Follows. I'm sorry for going on that rant with Tony,
No,
but
we like
that,
it. We
but
like
that's
it.
what goes
That's what
on.
we do here. That was like our guest tonight. Our guest was the rant right there.
Yeah. But let's go into your next film, my man.
Great taste for today. Tastes great every way. Can't get enough of the stuff.
1985's The Stuff, directed by Larry Cohen, who also did Return to Sam's Lot, Original Gangsters. It's alive, and he wrote a classic horror film called Maniac Cop, Uncle Sam, and Cellular, which if you don't know, it's about a cell phone that kills people. This film stars Michael Moratney, Andrea Mercovici, Garrett Morris, and Paul Sorvino. The movie had a budget of $1.3 million. I couldn't find a box, Tone. I don't know if you did, but I couldn't find a box from this one. But tell me why you picked this film.
I love The Blob, but when I found The Stuff, it's like watching this crazy commercial, and it looks really awesome. Like, even when looking for clips of what to pick out, this was the last Blu-ray I think I bought like a year ago. I only seen it like a little bit before that, but I just thought it was really cool. This is one of the parts that I thought was really awesome.
Harden my face. Harden on my face.
Just the stuff is ridiculous because it's like it's all over the place. Like, the stuff is literally like what the stuff is literally what the movie is. It like literally just oozes the whole movie. Like, it's little kids are touching the stuff. It's going from all these different actors. It's literally like it's like The Blob, except it's like they're selling this stuff, and it's like very contagious. You ever see The Stuff?
Yes, I have. And it's kind of funny because when I thought about this, when I was reading our list and I was going through research for it, uh, one, it has a lady from Where's the Beef from Wendy's. She's in there and she says, "Where's the stuff?"
beef?
Yeah, but she says, "Where's the stuff?" But this also made me think of another 90s film that was popular with kids and teenagers, which is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with Ivan's ooze, when he gives the free ooze away and it basically like manipulates the parents to do stuff for him. That's kind of like The Stuff. The Stuff takes over. This movie is corny, but it's hilarious. You know, I played for our lead-in was the commercial they have, and they have like these girls dancing around talking about the stuff. It's corny, but I love it. It's got, and the great part is Paul Sorvino's in here. His daughter makes her film debut in this film. When doing research for this, Tone, the executive's office at the end is similar to Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. It has a stuffed polar bear in there. So I didn't notice that until I went back and looked at it. I'm like, holy shit, it does. So that's another Simpsons tie in there.
That's great.
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
that's awesome. I did not know that.
It's got like everything in there in terms of like horror. It's kind of like a horror comedy to me. It's kind of corny, but good. I actually like this film a lot. And I recommend you check this one out because it's one of those 80s films that never get talked about again.
You know, whenever you really, really, really want to yump, I think me and you, and I know we don't want to do a remake, but maybe to start our writing movie career, we can pump up in a weekend the remake of The Stuff. Because honestly, you know, or something like it, because it's very parallel, it seems like, to, well, it could be anything in today's world. It could be the internet, it could be a lot of different things that changes people because they all, I love it, I need that stuff. And that's like, honestly, as the picture on the screen shows, there's a lot of good, just a lot of good, more, we were talking about effects, especially when you're thinking about a movie like this, a movie that really didn't get a lot of like, there's a lot of trailers. You know, it just really wasn't, you know, as big of a hit as, like, say, something like The Blob, but just really memorable though.
Yeah, and speaking of like writing our own movie script, my dialogue will be horrible. It'll be like Christopher's from The Sopranos, being loyal, Lolye to his capo. But One cool thing about this tone is, according to the audio commentary on the 2000 Anchor Bay DVD, the scene in the motel where the stuff comes out of the mattress and pills and attacks the man on the wall and ceiling was shot in a room that could turn upside down. According to the stuff, to move up and down the wall, it allowed it to move up and down the wall. It was exactly the same room used in 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street when Johnny Depp's character is sucked into his bed and the blood is regurgitated back out into the ceiling.
Very interesting.
It's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this stuff, check it out. It's 80s horror at gold at its best.
Yes.
Let's move on to the next one, my friend.
Don't trust her. You find your own way out.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm not gonna leave you. Dad. I'm not gonna leave you. I'm not leaving you here. Okay.
2005's The Descent, directed by Neil Marshall, who also did Dog Soldiers, Doomsday, and Centurion. The film stars Shauna McDonald, Natalie Mendoza, Alex Reed, Sakia Mulder, and Myanna Buring, as well as Nora Jane Noon. The film had a budget of $3.5 million and a box office of $57 million. Another one of my picks, a film that plays again off atmosphere, has creepy ass characters and creatures in it, and it's about caves. And for those who like to go exploring caves, this film scares the shit out of you when doing so. It has, one of those things where you kind of feel for the characters. Like, what are they going to do next? They're in an unknown place. It's big off atmosphere. It has a lot of jump scares in it, and it makes you feel helpless a lot because where are you going to go? And we still explore caves. I mean, there's been stories about people getting stuck in caves and dying when they cave crawl. There's people I think there's a person actually that died in a cave and he's still in there because they can't get him out because he's in the cracks. It's horrible stuff like that. But this film kind of bred on the unknown of cave, and you have the crawlers in there that come after the people, and what are they? And it's just crazy that this film doesn't get talked about enough. It's an awesome horror film. I highly encourage you again to watch this one. Tony, have you seen this one?
When you brought this one up, as you stated earlier, when you were looking at mine, this was mine for yours, where I was like, I forgot. I love this movie. I forgot about this one. I like movies like The Descent, Green Inferno, The Ruins. I love going to odd places that you're not really expecting that you're going to go, and then you end up being neck deep in something that we would never want to be in ever. So you feel empathy for the characters because you're like, get the hell out of there. And that's exactly what this movie is. These creatures down here. Yeah, very, very scary. Very gross too. This whole scene you're seeing on the screen when she's in the red. But that's what we like horror movies for. We like them for these type of things.
Yeah, and like I said, this film was built on tension. Neil Marshall, who directed this film, went on to say that the films The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Thing, and Deliverance were influenced in establishing tension in the film. The director elaborated, saying, "We really wanted to ramp up the tension slowly, unlike the American horror films you see now. They take it up to 11 in the first few minutes and simply can't keep up. We wanted to show all these terrible things in the cave, drowning, dark, and claustrophobia. Then, when it couldn't get any worse, we made it worse." Marshall also said at the 63rd Venice International Film Festival that he was inspired by Italian horror films of the past, in particular those by Dario Argento, who did Demons, and Lucio Fulci. So again, films that was, foreign horror, right? Films are inspiring stuff, and this film does build on tension. Lucio Fulci is known for the Zombie series. If you ever see Zombie 2 and Zombie 3, that's Lucio Fulci. So those are Italian horror films. He also did the New York Ripper, and I think City of Living Dead was one of his other films he did. But yeah, this film is definitely worth the watch just for the tension alone. And the claustrophobia is real in here. Like, even I was like a little claustrophobic watching because you can see how the characters did beautifully acted out too. The characters really good, to get you to feel their emotions and the fear they're experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, very, very claustrophobic. I mean, handful of movies I've experienced any kind of little bit of fear, honest fear. This movie is definitely one of them. Um, Want to watch it again because I watched it last year, but I didn't watch it this year. But like I stated, whenever I get sad, it's the end of October. I then just tell myself I can watch horror movies all the time.
It's Halloween every day, my friend.
I know, as Ministry says.
Yes, I'm gonna try to get my wife to watch this one. Hopefully, she's not too terrified of it.
I think she might like this one.
All right, my friend. Let's get into our next one. I love that little clip. Boy. 1979's Phantasm, directed by Don Corsarelli, who also did a film called Bubba Hotep. He did the Phantasm sequels 2, 3, and 4, The Beastmaster, and Kenny and Company. This film stars Michael Baldwin, Bill Thornberry, Reggie Bannister, Kathy Lester, Angus Scrimm, and Kenneth B. Jones. This movie had a budget of $300K and made $11 million at the box office, so it was a big-time financial success. This is one of Mr. Hand's favorite horror films, Tone, so it cracked me up when you picked it. Tell me about Phantasm, my man.
I love Phantasm. I love it because I found it. Like, I love it because I'm the one who was like, you know what? I've always seen this box. I've seen this title, which is an amazing title. I can't think of another cooler movie title for a horror movie because you're like, what is Phantasm? And then I bought the DVD, right? It was like, I used to have, I'll never forget, have like a calendar when the new DVDs would come out, like especially older movies that they were releasing on DVD. So when Phantasm came out, I still have it. It was like a cool box, so I bought it, and I hadn't actually seen it yet. And I watched it, and I was super, super happy because it was everything that I'd hoped for in the horror movie. I mean, the dude who, the tall man, with the cool hair. I always loved his hair in the movie. He's
Angus Scrimm.
Yes, just the way his mannerisms are in the film are scary enough. Like the way this first one is it's a buildup. There's a buildup. It doesn't start really super scary, and I wouldn't say it's the super scariest movie I've seen, but what it is it's got a lot of those like mental thrills because it deals a lot with death. They lost their parents, so there is a lot of that lurking behind the overall plot.
Yeah, and Phantasm, like you said, what it is, it's a figment of imagination, an illusion, or apparition, according to Webster's. Also, the director Don Corsarelli got the idea for Phantasm, the naming of Phantasm, was because he was reading a lot of Edgar Allan Poe works, and Poe uses the word a lot in his works. He kind of got that as his idea for the film in terms of the name. I love the flying ball. When it kills the guy who works at the great funeral home, it's just crazy. Like I remember watching it, and like I watched it recently because I did when I first did 31 Days of Horror. It is one of the films I did, and I watched it, and the ball flying and hitting that guy, and then there's the stream of blood flowing out of the ball as it dug into his skull. Still looks cool, even though it was a simple effect. They said it was a pretty simple effect of them doing it, as well as the tall man's finger crawling around. And Corsarelli got that finger crawling around idea from when he punched a hole in the bottom of a styrofoam cup, and he loved the visual effect of his finger coming through the hole. So he's like, "Oh, let's do this for the tall man." We didn't talk about the dwarves in this film, the little dwarves.
Oh yeah,
they walk around. They're like Jawas. The lady in velvet that basically turns people, for. And I think the tall man, they're aliens, right? Is that like they never really explain what I think they're aliens, right?
That's what I took from it.
Okay.
That's what I took from it.
Because it's just crazy out there. This film, of course, is straight up early 80s, late 70s kind of vibe. It still holds up today. Angus Scrimm, whose real name is Rory, he just used Angus Scrimm because he was actually a stage actor and didn't want anybody to know he was in horror films. He thought it would ruin his reputation. But the tall man has become an iconic character. He's long past, but when you talk about like the he's not gonna be on the Mount Rushmore, but when you talk about icons of horror, you have the Freddys, the Jasons, the Pinheads, the Candymans, the Chuckies, and you have the Tallman has to be up there with Leatherface. They're iconic. They have their own sequels and they have their own fans that are loyal to them. I always like the way he played the character of being really cold and like menacing the way he looked at you, which always freaked me out, especially when he carries the casket by himself. That's
Oh yeah.
pretty scary. But yeah, it's definitely a slow burn, but worth the watch.
Really some cool stuff when doing research behind the scenes. Cascarelli, he had to his dad financed a lot of the movie. There were no accountants on set, so of course, 300,000 is the estimated budget. It could have went a little more, it could have went a little less, which is crazy to think about. When thinking about like his mom helped design even some of the special effects. And one being a shotgun shell went off and his blank caught Coscarelli's jacket on fire, which when you think about behind the scenes on a $300,000 movie, can you imagine how awesome it would be to be a fly on the wall when they're filming this? Especially when
Yes.
you're telling me, Angus Grimm doesn't want to be known as a horror actor. So what's he acting like on the set? And they've done, what is there, 5 sequels to this? And honestly, I've never seen a sequel. Have you?
I've seen the second one. I can't really remember much about it.
That's what I'm saying. So like that would be hilarious to watch like 3, 4, and 5 and see how good or bad they get.
Yeah. Another thing about the spears, they were designed by a craftsman named Willard Green, who charged the production a little over $1,000 for his
Wow.
services. Sadly, he died just after production completed at the end of '77, so he never saw his work on the big screen. So unfortunately, that was for him.
1/300th of the budget went to
The spears.
the spears.
And the genesis of the story came to Casarelli in a dream one night in his late teens. He dreamed of fleeing down an endless long marble corridors, pursued by a chrome spear intent on penetrating his skull with a wicked needle. There was quite a futuristic spear dispenser out of which the orbs would emerge and begin chase. Great, that's a great shot right there you have with the tall man and the kid in front. Also, one of my favorite scenes of the film is when he has the dream of the nightmare and the tall man is over his bed and the bodies raise up and grab him
Yeah.
around this bed. That's a cool scene. I think that was in the trailers too. It has like a lot of good little like tidbits in there. So check this one out. It's like a slow burn. It's very psychedelic as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's totally worth it. And it's cheesy. It's like I got all the things you want, like cheesiness and horror and psychedelic and
The
cool
way
little
this
ideas.
funeral inside this place looks, looks really cool for being again under $1 million budget.
Yeah, they did a great job. I thought they did a good job. Even the effects are like really done well for under $1 million budget. But I mean, that was kind of style. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre wasn't a big production, but it had cool stuff. This
I
one
mean,
kind of like bumped it up a little bit.
I don't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to throw out this scary fact here. I mean, but when you really, really think about it, the budget for Battlefield Earth was $44 million, and this was, well, $300,000. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it, how good this looks and how bad that looked.
I watched that film with my uncle when it came out, like on video, and everyone was saying how horrible that film was. Me and my uncle, we used to do. I stayed with my aunt and uncle for a little bit when I was going to school up in. They lived in Orland, and I was going to school when I came back from U of I at Moraine because I had to live just to take some classes before I transferred to Lewis. I was staying with him, and he's like, "Hey, we used to do like a movie night every Friday. If I didn't have work, we do a movie night." So he's like, let's watch this movie. It's been horrible. It's got all these reviews. I want to see how bad it is." We watched it, and it was boring as hell.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as bad as people made it out to see, in my opinion.
I'd like to actually watch it now because honestly, I've never really watched it. I've just always heard, and I Travolta I watched a movie where Fred Durst directed it, and he played. It was ridiculous. It was called The Fan or something. It came out a couple years ago. I'll watch him in anything. So I could bet that it's not as bad as it is. I mean, if I almost spoke for myself, had to sit through that new Crow. I mean, Battlefield Earth definitely.
Yeah, I think Travolta's probably worst movie is, when he was big, it's probably the Gotti film.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted it to be good and it wasn't really bad.
Yeah. I wanted it to be good too. It just was not.
Yeah, but definitely check out Phantasm. It has a lower budget than Battlefield Earth, and it's better than Battlefield Earth.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, good pick, Tone.
Thanks.
Let's go on to our next one, my friend.
Even a big bitch cockroach like you should know. Never fuck with the king.
Going back to Casarelli, we got a 2002 film called Bubba Hotep, directed by Don Casarelli, starring the great Bruce Campbell with Ozzie Davis, Bob Ivy, and Ella Joyce. The film had a budget of $1.4 million, actually a box office of $1.4 million and a budget of $1 million, and $57K in home media sales. Another film I picked, Tony, I wanted to go outside the realm of all these popular films, and I love the fact we picked two Corsorelli films back to back. This film is totally out there. It's about first of all, it has a crazy story for one. It basically plays off the rumor that Elvis never really died. Bruce Campbell plays Elvis, and he gets tired of being in the limelight and wants to basically start his life as kind of a more quieter. So he switches with an impersonator. So when the impersonator died on the toilet, that was the impersonator, not the real Elvis. And unfortunately for him, he had all his birth certificates and stuff proving he was the real Elvis in his trailer that blew up from a propane tank when he was grilling. And it shows him in basically an old folks home when people think he's crazy. The character of Ozzie Davis thinks he's JFK, even though he's an African American. They talk about this. Bruce Campbell tells him he's Jack, Bruce, JFK was a white man, and he's like, I know that's what they did to me to hide the conspiracy. I love the fact that Ozzie Davis plays the character that's you don't know if he's serious or he's just crazy. This is all going around while we have a mummy coming back from the dead who takes people's souls by sucking out of their ass. He's going through his old folks' home, terrorizing. And the comedic, scene between Ozzie Davis and Bruce Campbell, who does, you don't make me use my stuff on you, baby, while he's in his walker, the karate, and they fight this mummy, is just crazy. It's hilarious. I love this film. It's a film that is a cult classic. There's been comic books that have made of this. Bubba Hotep has fought, Freddy Krueger, I believe, in one. Jason Voorhees in one. There's a comic book where Bubba meets Ash, so you have two Bruce Campbell characters meet. It's iconic, and it's kind of got more of a mainstream, cult vibe to it recently. I know Paul Giamatti came out and said he wanted to do a sequel, but he wanted Bruce Campbell to come back. Bruce Campbell was interested, and it's never really kind of got made to the point where fans wanted. But I would love to see a sequel, especially since Bruce Campbell's older and he's not doing the whole physical stuff anymore with the Evil Dead. It'd be kind of cool if he came back as Bubba for Elvis, Bubba Hotep Part 2. But Tone, tell me about this film, man.
I can remember exactly. I was just thinking about a time in my life, 2004, 2005. I'm single, and my buddy calls me up and says, I got this movie we're going to watch. And I'm like, what's it called? He's like, it's called Bubba Hotep. And I'll never forget it. I go, okay. And he's heading over. And then I call my other friend. I go, you won't believe Derek just called me and said he's bringing over a movie called Bubba Hotep. I go, I don't know what I'm going to be watching here. And we sat down, and honestly, as you stated, it's a good time. It's a fun time. Bruce Campbell has never let me down in any movie. I don't really believe. So like him, Elvis. I love Ozzie Davis too, playing JFK. And just the whole idea of the mummy coming around is ridiculous. I also want to state I swear on everything, every movie I've ever watched, I did not realize again that we picked 2 Don Coscarelli movies back to back when I sent you my list. I swear, Phantasm, until we were actually doing it here, I'm like, that's right. Here we are lining up again. So that's just by coincidence, folks, these 2 Don Coscarelli movies. But just the funness of this movie, I think, is what I enjoy the most.
And that's what I love about it, just the funness, the absurdness of the story. You know, supposedly, like, there was a prequel titled Bubba Nosferatu, The Curse of the She Vampires, has been in works for years. That's never come out. Before Bruce Campbell accepted the role of Elvis, he had one question for Don Casarelli. He said, "Are you gonna have to show penis?" which which is so random. But Bruce Campbell is known for being out there with just random stuff. Another crazy thing I noticed too when I did research for this tone, because I've seen this film like a lot, is no Elvis music is played during this whole film. And I just realized, like, that's right. Like, I don't ever remember hearing an Elvis song. And the reason was because of the licensing. They didn't have
Oh,
the money
yeah.
for licensing. But it's crazy that you have Elvis in here and there's no Elvis music played.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is always that problem with licensing. Recently, they did a Jimi Hendrix biography with Andre 3000, but they could get none of the licensing from the Hendrix Foundation. So it's just like him playing the guitar, like not any Hendrix song, but like like because you can't do it. It's like Monster Squad. So like, but I think for this one, it works because it's like it adds to the is he crazy? Is he Elvis? Is he not? Because if Elvis music was playing all the time, it may make you believe more he actually was Elvis. Where in here, he's just telling a story like, well, Ozzie Davis, maybe he's JFK.
Yeah. One of the most iconic shots of this film was when they're when they're about to face the mummy, who's named Bubba Hotep, and they're about to face him, and they they roll up like he's in his walker, and Ozzie Davis rolls up in his electric wheelchair. That always just cracks me up how they just come up. But
It's
yeah,
great.
definitely check this one out. It's comedic. It's not really scary, but it has a lot of good one-liners in it. Bruce Campbell is the man, and Ozzie Davis is the man. Check it out. It's worth your time. Believe me, you'll like this one if you haven't seen it. But awesome that we picked 2 Corsorelli films, like, back to
Yeah,
back.
very awesome.
And let's get into our final one, my friend.
Hey, you know that movie about the guy that's got like these superpowers and shit because of his hair? Then this bitch cuts his hair off and he gets weak. He gets like an ordinary guy. You know that movie? I'm better looking than the guy in that movie. Don't you think?
Creepshow 2, released in 1987, directed by Michael Gornick, who did Stephen King's Golden Tales, along with other TV shows, one-off episodes, starring George Kennedy, Lois Childs, Dominic John, Tom Savini as the Creeper, Don Harvey, Dan Kamen, Dorothy Lamour, and Hoyt McCallany, who is Sam Whitemoon, who we just heard in the opening. The film had a box office of 14 million and a budget of 3.5. Telling Sam Whitemoon, me and my brother still quote Sam Whitemoon just for his like talk about his hair. That's that's even though Holt's not native and we also like indigenous people playing those characters, like he gets a pass because they for most of the film that story they use indigenous characters, but he is just hilarious in that film. That story. I'm sorry. Tell me why you picked this one, my man.
This hair is gonna get me paid and laid. We used to say that all the time. I mean, his character is amazing. That whole scene where he goes into that camera booth and he's like, look at that hair. And the way he's like talking to the camera. And honestly, when I found out that that was him in Mindhunter, I literally, I'll never forget. I think Katie looked at me like I was insane because I was like, that's him, Creepshow 2. But honestly, let's get started. All 3 episodes, I love them all 3. And I love them all for different ways. George Kennedy's great in the first episode, along with Holt, but it's a classic cheesy, scary movie. I mean, I've seen those awesome, cool statues in front of stores before or in movies. What if one of them came to life and actually took apart these people who actually did harm to the people who they were trying to harm? And I think that's what was cool about that first story. Yeah, is the statue a little cheesy as it moves? A little bit, but I think that's part of what the creep show fun is. It doesn't have to be 100% um, logical. Story 2, The Raft. This one probably is my favorite of all the stories because I like a lot of the quotes in these stories, in story 2. Um, there's there's this scene where, I mean, every horror movie, which you could talk about a lot and do a whole episode on, somebody's always smoking weed in every horror movie, or weed is involved. In episode 2, when they're on the raft, he's like trying to tell the one idiot buddy, the one who's like the jerk jock, he's like, I think this is not good. This thing's been following us. And he's like, mucho ecological, Pablo. Mucho ecological. It's just like the stupidest thing to say. Just dumb, but excellent. It does look like a garbage bag floating on the lake, but it is very cool. Just the way, I just don't understand how he wasn't able to outswim it. That has always been a problem of mine. And then, of course, I mean, this one is, everyone's favorite.
How you doing, lady? Thanks. Thanks for the ride.
Probably the very first in all of this creep show, Tales from the Crypt. The first thing that I remember seeing, and it like stuck with me at probably a too young of an age, because he just keeps coming back. And also a great Halloween costume. Dover, you get the sign and you put the hat on. I've seen that before, but I love this movie, man. I love it a lot.
It's crazy, like, Creepshow, the original, is such a classic. And again, this one doesn't get talked about enough because it's the sequel. But I mean, it's a different type of sequel. It's, of course, it's Creepshow has the anthology film, but I think it's just as good. I like the original better
Yeah.
personally,
Oh, yeah.
but this one is, this one still holds up. It has 3 decent stories. I like the hitchhiker at the end. The Wrath always cracked me up because it does look like a garbage bag. Also, it has some random, like, when everybody's dying from this thing, when the girl and the guy are on the raft, he decides he wants to get laid. Like, that makes no fucking sense to me, that part. Because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, yeah, like, that's the first thing I'm thinking about," but I guess, the guy was horny and wanted to get laid.
He lost his girlfriend too, like
Yeah!
like that quickly.
He's like, "I might as well just get laid if I'm gonna
That
die."
would be the least thing I'd be thinking about. I mean, I
But
could be on there with Nicole, what's her name from, Margot Robbie from,
Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street, and I'm, like, still like, "I gotta get out of here, man. There's a bag floating. It's gonna kill us."
Yeah. But the ending to that story is awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
love the ending to that. And then Chief.
The bag or the way the sign was blocked by the weeds. Like, I like the way that was cool, the way when the camera pans out,
All
it's
of
like,
it.
yeah,
The way
yeah,
it ends with him, it's like,
yeah,
"Oh, I beat you," and then it takes
yeah.
him, and then the
"I
way
beat
yeah,
you,
it
but
just takes him.
more." I've watched that so many times. "Go further up the beach, you
Yeah,
stupid
what the hell are
idiot."
you doing? The crazy thing is, when doing research for this tone, Arnold Schwarzenegger was rumored to have been considered for the role of old Chief Woodenhead, who was the, killer in the first story. And like you said, these statues are all over, most famously on 63rd and Pulaski, the ICU guy. It was featured in Wayne's World, if you ever seen Wayne's World, even though they're coming from, Aurora, that's nowhere near Aurora, but you see the tall indigenous person with the glasses of the ICU guy. Imagine if that guy came to life and started busting up shit. Like, this film has all like little cool little things in there. I thought the stories were original and they were kind of cool in terms of they had different types of turns and twists in them. Uh and Sam Moon gets his fucking hair cut off because he was obsessed with it. But definitely a great film to end our top 10 with, Tone.
Just real quick too, at the end, the last episode, the stupid lady, okay, just that lady, she's just so stupid. And she deserves what she got from that guy. Well, not because she hit him and then she tried to run, but she's first cheating on her husband at the beginning, and then she's like driving home and she's like pretending like she's gonna get caught for cheating. It's just ridiculous greatness. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yes,
Definitely,
it
these
does.
stories are worth it. Have you seen Creepshow 3?
Unfortunately, no, I have not because I've just read not good things.
I haven't seen it. I haven't watched any of the TV series either. Uh,
I did watch some of the TV series, was pretty good from the 3 or 4 or 5 I watched in the first season. But again, they bury some of this stuff on, like, it's hard to access sometimes. I think it was, like, on AMC Plus or something.
yeah, I haven't seen any of it. I know, some episodes got kinda cut because of certain things that were going on. The Marilyn Manson one was one of them. I haven't watched it. I think my brother said he saw Creepshow 3 and it wasn't that good. I don't know if there a Creepshow 4?
Well, this was the real thing. Creepshow, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but Creepshow 3 was originally supposed to be Tales from the Dark Side, the movie.
Mhm.
But,
Oh,
something got messed up along the way with licensing, like, back to licensing again, and they switched it to Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. But, this is these Creepshow movies, this is one that if you ask me one that I really think that they should do again, I think this would be perfect.
yeah, and you could come up with original stories. You don't have to go with you
Yeah.
just come up with something new. Have, like, Jordan Peele be on there. Have if John Carpenter's, still here, pick his brain for one.
Yeah.
Have even if you wanna have, oh god, even though I don't like him, Green from the Halloween series. If you wanna have him do,
David Gordon Green.
but, have those guys come out and try to do something before it's too
Yeah,
late. That'd be kinda cool.
yeah,
Stephen King's still here, do something with him again. He may
yeah.
become back Geordie as in the original, the meteor shit. But, yeah, I'll be down for that.
Yeah, but I'll definitely agree with you. Creepshow 1 is, like, more like Creepshow 1's, like, classic. Creepshow 2's really, really good, cheesy classic. It's like there's a little bit of a difference. Um, Part 1, besides the Stephen King episode, it's all pretty serious, I think, but
Yeah.
they're
That
great
the
though.
Stephen King and The Crate are my 2 favorite stories from the first one.
Oh, yeah. Well, The Crate is probably one of the greatest short stories in horror history.
And Savini calls the monster Fluffy.
He's awesome.
Yeah. But those are our films. Let us know if we missed any films that you might have not hadn't heard of or want us to let know about. You know, Halloween is our favorite month, both me and Tone. We showed it with the content we put out. So content coming out is kind of be a little, we're gonna take a little slow down, a little break a little bit. We'll still be doing the show weekly. I'll release a video at least every 2 weeks if I can. But doing a video every day was kind of it was fun, but it was a lot of work. And I know Tone, I know you liked writing the blogs every day, but still, it's still a lot of work to do it every day. Knock them
It
out.
is. It is. One thing I wanted to give another shout out with your videos is one of your picks. What Lies Beneath. When I saw that you picked What Lies Beneath, you made me smile on multiple levels because me and Katie always do the quote, she's starting to suspect something, your wife. But not only that, I'll never forget me and my friend. Me and my buddy almost got thrown out of the movie theater because James Remar, when the camera pans to him and he's staring in the house and he's just looking at them, I've never laughed so hard in such an unintentional way because James Remar rules so much, but him playing that role is so awesome. Um, just a really cool pick, Yump. And honestly, all of your picks that you did were awesome. But really cool to see you sometimes, and that's what we talked about here in some of these picks tonight. We want to get underneath your skin, just like the pick you said. We want you to pick some of these movies. Hear some of these movies that we pick that are really kind of you might not hear every day.
Yeah, and the James Remar when, she suspects him of killing his wife, and then he sees her at a party with his wife, and he goes and grabs her to be an asshole, that always cracked me up. But yeah, I really appreciate man, I loved everything you did with the 31 blogs, I read them every day, and I try to promote them as much. If you guys have not read Tony's blogs, go to statisticpenguinstudios.com and check them out. You can also find the 31 Days of Horror there as well if you wanna go from there and watch them there, or you can watch them on the YouTube. There's a playlist that we have for that there. Tone, before we go into coming soon and the Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week, just doing a little housekeeping here. Uh, the show for the Getting Drafting here will be doing horror movie villains. We had to reschedule this week. It will be myself and Keelan, along with Magnificent Stan, aka Brian. We'll be doing that. I believe it'll be happening next week, next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. Also, the Hook Up on Music, Tone. What's coming up on that?
We got an episode planned next Friday. The Cure just came out with a brand new album today. If you have not heard it, I've listened to the first 6 tracks. Sounds like classic Cure, which is hilarious because Robert Smith just said today it's really tough for him to write sad songs anymore in his old age, which is kind of funny to hear him say that because, but honestly, everything I've heard so far sounds really good. So we're going to dig into that. Dig into some other stuff too. Throwing around some Temper Trap, haven't listened to that in a while. See what else we got coming up and check us out.
Cool. Yeah. Check out Tony and the Hook Up on Music. Usually he does a show before us, depending on what's going on at work. We do work real jobs. But this is kind of like our outlet, creative outlet. But yeah, check us out on the statisticpenguinstudios.com and be sure to check out everything here on the YouTube page as well. If you're listening via audio, check us out on YouTube. There's stuff there. You know, have Aloha's Collectors Corner. Pete does a great job with his stuff. If you like college football, Luke's doing a great job with the Grateful Ducks, even though my Illini got their ass beat by Oregon, which I'm not happy about. But I digress and say he does a great job. And look out for more blogs and stuff coming out soon. We're gonna keep trying to pump out content. Maybe not as frequent as we did, but we will still have some stuff, and we got stuff in the works coming up as well. But now that we got housekeeping out of the way, Tone, let's get into what's coming soon, my friend. If I can find a damn video. Oh, here we go.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
So what we got coming soon, Tone?
Next week, we are digging into a movie based on a video game, which is kind of cool. We are going to be digging into the most recent rendition of the Mortal Kombat series, which was cool when you reached out to me, because what I thought about was I really enjoyed this time period. I didn't enjoy the time period of not being able to go to the movie theater. What I enjoyed was the whole year where HBO Max released one movie every month on HBO Max. And one of them that they released was Mortal Kombat. And we're going to be going through this one because, go ahead.
Well, they just released a screenshot of the new sequel that's coming out. I believe they wrapped up filming and they're showing Shao Kahn as a character. They also released not too long ago Quan Chi, which, if you're fans of the video game, was another character that have not made their way. He hasn't made his way into a feature film yet, which fans are really excited about. I don't want to spoil it. I really enjoyed the remake, the reboot. There were certain things I didn't like about it, which we'll get into in our talk, but I think it's kind of cool that this is coming back. And yeah, during this time zone, they had, Mortal Kombat came out. They had other films that were released stream because the movie theaters were kind of dead due to COVID. I don't know if they're going to release this one again, the new one that comes out on stream, but
I think it'll be at the theater. It deserves to be in the theater, kind of like what's that? The one with the Predator remake, the last one. The Predator, what was it called?
I know what you're talking about. It was
Prey. That deserved to be at the theater. I mean, Mortal Kombat did such a good job and was such a good movie that if it wasn't the COVID times, it would have been in the theater. So hopefully this one's in the theater.
Yeah, and the next one actually will release in 2025 in October. I know that Johnny Cage will be making appearance in this one. Also, follow the creator Todd Garner, who does the producer. If you follow him on Twitter, he actually posts a lot of stuff, like little Easter eggs from the new film, which is kind of cool. But I'm looking forward to it. And we'll talk about this one next week. Something new for November, and then might go back to the old format. Might do another deep dive. Well, you never know. You gotta check out and see.
Let's see. Can't wait.
Yes, sir. Uh, Maybe one day we'll do a breakdown on the great movie with Raul Julia and John Claude Van Damme in Street
Oh,
Fighter.
yes. Yes, the one where I'll never forget where my 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 mom took me to a 1:00 showing at River Oaks, and she did not look happy when we were done. Like, she wasted her time, and I was like, "But it's Street Fighter." Now I realize she did waste her time.
You know, even though I'm not a huge fan of the Nostalgia Critic, he did a film called with his other creators called Kick-Assia, and there's a part where he's dressed like Raul Julia's character of Bison, and he's going against his character in Dr. Insano. It's a stupid concept. But he's like, he's telling Dr. Insano's asking him, how are you electric? And he goes into the same speech that Raul Julia does with it powers the speed trains from Tokyo. And he's like, it also powers me. And he does that like face. Well, he does it in there, and like it cuts back and forth and looks like he's floating, and the guy calls him out. He's like, "You're on your tippy toes." And just like how iconic the performance of Julia has become, because he is definitely the best part of the whole movie.
Oh, yeah. Raul
And also,
Julia.
like, yeah, underrated actor, great stage actor, and people hated the movie, but they praised him, which is kind of crazy. Like critics, I'm saying Ebert praised him for his acting in the film. But it's always great that Jean Claude Van Damme plays a character who's American and has a French accent. But I don't know. Again, we're going off another tangent, but that's why we do this show. But yeah,
Yes.
be sure to check us out next week for the Mortal Kombat breakdown. Tone, let's not keep him waiting, and let's get into your big segment of the Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week, my friend. If I can find your, here you go. Here we go. The Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week.
All right, tonight we've got the Mallrats soundtrack, released October 17th of 1995. A really interesting mix of there's punk, there's indie, there's pop punk. Produced by Kevin Smith, was the executive producer on the soundtrack. Mixed with a lot of different things, from Bush doing a song called Bubbles. You got Mallrats, the song done by the band Wax, who, if you don't remember Wax, a really awesome band that was around in the 90s. Belly, Squirt Gun, Sublime doing the classic Smoke Two Joints. We also had Silverchair on the album doing Stoned. What's really cool is that the album has 25 tracks on it. Some of them are interludes, which is Jason Mewes goofing around, and Jason and Jeremy London. But overall, though, a lot of good stuff. Elastica, Belly. If you don't remember Girls Against Boys, that's another band that was really awesome from their original run up until 2009. But a great soundtrack from Kevin Smith. Eventually, here, I'm going to have to go through every Kevin Smith soundtrack because they generally all have really good music on it. But the track that I led off with, there's Suzanne by Weezer. One of my favorites, quick track from the sessions of Pinkerton, their second album. But overall, just a really great album, put together awesomely. A great follow-up soundtrack to the Clerk soundtrack. Really good stuff. You ever listen to this one yet?
Yeah, I have. It's a awesome soundtrack. It's got Bush on there too. I think Bubbles is on there.
That's a good
Yeah.
track.
17, I think, is on there too. Sponge.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just trying off the top of my head. MSS would love this because he's a huge Kevin Smith fan.
Nice.
But definitely another film that like cannot be made today, but I love it just for the so wackiness and out there and the skewerverse that is Kevin Smith's world.
Yes.
I always love the Son of Joel, kneel before Zod.
Yes.
Cheese. But yeah, definitely a good pick, Tone. A good album, totally 90s, good bands in there. And it kind of like let off the skewerverse. Like it kind of made that a big thing.
Yeah, and what's crazy is it only came out like it was in October 17th. So next year, celebrating 30 years, Mallrats already. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy stuff. There was supposed to be a sequel, but I don't think it's ever going to come out, especially with Shannon Doherty passing away. But two things that always stick out about Mallrats is the chocolate covered pretzel, my mind, and Jaws, the ride. That was, whenever I think of Mallrats, I think of those two things. But definitely worth the watch, and I love to listen, man. Great pick.
Thank you very much.
So that is our episode for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope we met your standards on top of horror movies that we've watched and talked about for the month of October. Again, we'll be going deep diving into Mortal Kombat. We got some other stuff planned for the month of November. Be sure to check us out on statisticpenguinstudios.com for our blogs and stuff that we mentioned earlier. And just want to say thank you for everyone that watched, listened, comments, tweets at us for any conversation, whether it's with the At the Pod Show Twitter account or our personal accounts. Talk movies. We're always open to talk movies. Tony's always open to talk music. We're mostly, anything you want to talk in terms of entertainment, we're there to talk to you guys. Thank you so much. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this because people actually listen to what we're doing. And we hope we are supplying the entertainment for everyone. Thanks again. And Tone, any closing words, my friend?
Everyone out there, very excited to continue this journey with you. Tonight was our 35th episode of the season. We only got a couple more, and we've beaten the last 3 episodes for the past couple seasons. So it's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, this is actually 36, episode 36.
Oh, Jump. I didn't want to correct you, but if you go to our playlist and count them, there are only 35 there. You were wrong for a couple episodes, and I never corrected.
Oh my God.
Skip one. But I did not want to correct you, but I think tonight it was time. We only have, but you know what, Yump? I wanted to tell you, if you ever want to do like a secret one, and we could do like a secret episode that we never really did, but like count it, we could do that too.
Son of a bitch. I'm looking at my list because I have a, peek behind the curtain here, as Logan likes to say. I have a hard drive for all our stuff we do for pods and all that stuff. And I'm looking at, and I did skip a number.
You know what, though? You did it like 7 episodes, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know what to do. And you know what? For 7 episodes, I actually in my notebook skipped to number 2. And then I'm like, you know what? We got to be honest, Yump. We can't, because just think of it, Yump. 4 more, and we've beaten the last
3 years.
Seasons. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I see it. I skipped, it's probably because it was my son's birthday. The July episode, the 19th, was the 21st, and the 29th. And then after the 29th, I said episode 24 on the list here. Son of a gun. But, okay, so we're at episode 35. But, yeah, we're going to keep trucking. We're going to hit that, try to hit that 100 mark within the next half year coming up and then beyond. Again, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it.
Big stuff coming up.
Yep. Take it easy, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?